Live from Belconnen, Canberra, this is Paul Murray Live, Our Town.
Today Australia, today Belconnen! A beautiful part of Canberra, of course, with the ACT. We are in for a big night tonight here, the Southern Cross Club in Jamison in particular. Thank you so much for joining us in the room, joining us on telly. Let's learn a little more about our national capital and, of course, this bit of it, Belconnen. Now, for those that have lived here a long time or been visiting a long time, there was a time before the lake went in, well, roughly about 50 years ago, that's about the same time as Belconnen, joined the family of suburbs that are in and around our nation's capital. Tonight, we are going to have a look at some of the pretty obvious things to come and see and do here, including this being a political show and a political channel. How do we not spend a fair amount of time at Old Parliament House, which also doubles now as the Museum of Australian Democracy. The people were fantastic, showing us around. The facility is exactly as you imagine it to be. And even if it's something that you came and did maybe year 5 or a long time ago, you've got to come back and actually have a look at what they've done specifically with that building, but everything from the National Film and Sound Archive, where I was able to work out this program is officially in the record. So when they somehow dig up the ruins after climate change, they will find one little file left. What were things like back in 2015? Oh, fat bloke with the beard was on the TV. Okay. But no, we're there in the history, all right? Now, also, another chapter you may well have heard in the past couple of days, of course, Prime Minister and President. And let's be really honest, okay? And you know how big a fan I am of the Trumpster and not of the Prime Minister. I don't think Trump has any idea who the Prime Minister is, and definitely doesn't know who Kevin Rudd is, right? So trying to pretend that he's up, he's down, he's in, he's out, there's a little more worth talking about that today. And Kamala Harris, of course, the one who perhaps the Prime Minister would have dreamt of meeting more than, of course, the President of the United States. Guess what? She's going to run again in 4 years' time. But first, before we get to the joys of Belconnen and beautiful Canberra, let us have a look at some of the day's news, including Airbus Albo is up and away yet again. Now, of course, these are important, vital meetings for our country. And for anyone who ever says he goes on too many of them, shame on you. Like, how dare you say that, of course, when the President had no idea who he or the ambassador was when it comes to the United States last week? How dare you mention that the media played along and didn't tell us where his overseas holiday was for a week before that? How dare you say, when discussing Airbus Albo, that this Prime Minister is enjoying plenty overseas when he doesn't do much here, including speaking to an empty room at the United Nations, a personal favourite of mine. Airbus Albo, of course, just this year, remember when he spent 17 of 30 days out of the country? Well, of course, he had to bring booze to meetings with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom at his place, because, you know, Barry McKenzie, 21st century, what a great look. How dare you say this man travels too much? He had to see pandas in China. This man is a busy beaver. This man had to address the Labor conference in the United Kingdom. He had to wear the wrong shirt at the Pacific Island Forum. He had to go to Papua New Guinea, where we are going to build $100 million renovation to the Papua New Guinean Parliament. Of course, we're also paying for a football team up there in the next little while. So anyone who says this overseas stuff isn't vital to the people of the suburbs of Australia, then you, my friends, of course, as always, are part of the problem. The latest of these, of course, is up and away again, off to Malaysia, where he's going to be at a Gibberfest, that I don't know why it's any different than the other 500 that he's had this year. South Korea after that. But interestingly, perhaps there is a little sign about how cocky the Prime Minister is, knowing how secured in the job he is after the federal election and after a compliant media says, of course, for security reasons. We wanted to say a detail of where you were in your secret Micronesian holiday, as opposed to every moment of what was happening with previous Prime Ministers overseas. We turn to that far right-wing section of the far right-wing newspaper, The Financial Review, and the Rear Window section that's noticed the Prime Minister's now, got so many, tickets to on himself that he can give a few away to a Taylor Swift concert, but he's still able to remain very confident in himself. Why? Because he's doing something most Prime Ministers don't do. In fact, let me follow the bouncing ball here. Albanese seems hyper-attuned to what things look like. And so for some time now, he has been whinging to the travelling media about their insistence on filming him getting on and off the plane. I mean, this is tough stuff for the Prime Minister, right? These are commonly known as arrival and departure shots. Now, let's be honest, the reason people do this is because there might be a Joe Biden falling up the stairs moment, but still, you know, free flight, you're going around the world. OK, here he is walking in, walking off. Now, we've heard that on the past 3 trips, the Prime Minister has complained about having to wear a suit while getting on and off the taxpayer-funded plane to the pandas, to the UK Prime Minister's office, and now, yet again, off to meeting with Asian leaders. And he's asked the media, why can't they just use file footage? Well, as you see here, missed the chance for the Prime Minister to slip arse over tit? No, thank you. Again, that language is in the Financial Review. I mean, how downgrade has that got? Swearing in a newspaper, goodness me. Because having landed on Thursday following his flight home from Washington, guess what? He was wearing a T-shirt and he went, bugger it, I'm still going to wear the T-shirt when I come off the plane because wearing the suit just pisses me off. Perhaps we should start the No Kings rallies here in Australia. This man is very comfortable, going all around the world, doing it on your dollar, representing everyone here, there and everywhere, and just getting rid of the inconvenience of wearing a suit while he gets on and off Toto 1. Now, so I stand by the Airbus Albo line here, despite the fact that apparently he does not care for it, doesn't think it's true, doesn't think that it rubs well with normal people. Well, again, he has turned up in Malaysia, as I mentioned tonight. He was actually there after Donald Trump turned up in Malaysia tonight. And unlike Donald Trump, there was no dancing from our Prime Minister. This was the Trumpster in Malaysia. Jeff, can you take a wide shot of the audience here? Give me some Trump dancing, everyone. Show me how you do it. Show me, do you do a little Trumpy? All right, that's good, excellent. Good to see. Notice my mum wasn't moving at all in the front row there, fair enough. Somebody who's never met me was participating. The one who's known me my whole life goes, I'm not doing that, son. I love your mum, always with us on In Our Town. Now, also talking about the Prime Minister, and just, I mean, it is frustrating for him. The media is so unfair to him, right? Now, as I told you, media relationship during the election campaign was giving him the free pass. The hunt was on for all things to do with disaster. And, of course, the result of the election went the way that it did. The media, of course, last week were just acting more like stenographers for the greatest Prime Minister of all time with their descriptions of how successful the meeting was with the man who I still believe does not know who he is, certainly who Rudd is. But, again, you remember the media.
The Prime Minister ready to go face-to-face with Donald Trump.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Donald Trump.
For the Prime Minister Albanese.
A warm welcome to our Prime Minister in Washington.
A triumph. Well, this media, that as we know, when they want to get into a process story of who knew what and when, they become Canberra Columbos. They can pick up the magnifying glass and follow up and down the halls to find out who knew what and when. But this is the very same media who, remember, agreed to say nothing about what the Prime Minister was doing on his holiday for 7 days. Now, again, do I give a stuff that's whether he was on holidays or not? No. But the idea that for national security reasons we didn't know anything about the trip, bullshit. It was just because you don't want to displease the dear leader. Well, today, news stories started to appear about exactly what was happening during his week away. Pictures of this and pictures of that. Isn't that a perfect example of how it works? Do not displease the machine, and the machine will toss you a few crumbs. You put the crumbs in the right combination, you will continue getting the crumbs from the Prime Minister's office. But interestingly, that only thing that was memorable of the back and forth in Washington last week was, of course, the former Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd, and I know this room's very supportive of him as the ambassador to the United States, and we all know what happens. Boom, boom. Well, we've after the first moment and then him all being forgiven, Trump in the past couple of days was asked, and again now says that he's not forgetting because, again, he doesn't know who these people are, right? So he has 2 settings, right? There's the love setting or there's the ass-kicking setting, right? And you either fall into one of these or the other, which meant, yet again, we are still talking about this as many days after, and I'm starting a new week of shows talking about what we talked about last week.
I think he said a long time ago something bad. Yeah. You know, when they say bad about me, I don't forget.
Now, when the Prime Minister was asked about the awkward exchange inside the meeting and the President still changing his position, dare I say each way elbowing, his position about Kevin Rudd, this was the Prime Minister blaming the media.
Do you need to sub Kevin Rudd out?
No. Frankly, it says more about the journo than it does who asked the question than anything else. I was in the room. It was fine.
Now, don't you like the way that this works? Now, again, we're taking fun, we're taking the piss, we're having some fun. But I believe there should be a relatively adversarial relationship between those who cover something and those who are doing the reporting. Why? Because they are the people who are the only people who can look our leaders in the eye and call BS each and every day. But when unlimited overseas travel is only ever a triumph, when you stay quiet about the holiday in exchange for the ongoing access from the media, when you don't ask the one question that may well embarrass the Prime Minister because it is one on the minds of millions of Australians, that's how access works. Now, this is not the first Prime Minister to invent it, but he's certainly probably the best of this century at perfecting it. And people know that you don't want to upset the machine. On bigger and wider issues, this is why I've talked about that triangle of dependence, right? How you end up with, well, hang on, how does Victoria keep sending the same people back all the time? Because you work for the government, you are dependent on the government when it comes to the handout, or if you're in private sector, your biggest customer is the government. Perfect example there. And rather than turning around and saying, hang on, the issue is not the question, the issue is that there was the information there for the question to be asked. And of course, Andrew Connell is big enough to stand up on his own 2 feet, but I thought a little example worth showing you about what it is like to even tinsy-wincy rock the boat and about how they punish you. All right, let's get on to celebrating Belconnen and making our way around our nation's capital. This is a magnificent part of Australia. Again, it's been around since the 1960s, as was the beginnings of things like the lake, which was officially locked off on at that particular time. Up and down the highway, you can see where we are, where you go north, you go to Yass. Unsurprisingly, you can drive a long way through the night when it comes to Melbourne. There's lots of fun things to do while you are here each and every time. Also, the makeup of the suburb, worth having a look at as well here, about the average ages, that about 100,000 people live here. 36 is the average age, and if not born in Australia, most likely in this suburb, likely to have a connection back to China. Now, again, just down the road is Capitol Hill and is the old Parliament House. Now, this is a building you may well have seen as a kid, but it's one you must go back to as an adult. And one of the biggest bits in history to ever happen in that building is the subject of our next documentary here on Sky News, and our mate Chris Yeoman will be here to talk about it. In the meantime, a little more about a building of which you think you may know everything about.
What a day it's been in Canberra. Except for the most hardened of political journalists, it's been a mind-bending experience.
And on the steps of Parliament House, a sacked Gough Whitlam responds to a proclamation.
Gough Whitlam mobbed on the steps of Old Parliament House.
We'll get to all of that in a second. We all know Old Parliament House. 50 years ago, believe it or not, this year since the dismissal. But one part of Old Parliament House that you probably haven't seen is the space I'm in right now, this beautiful garden, a quiet space where members of the House on their side or senators on this side were able to meet away from the public. This was where the informal business of the Parliament could be done. It's a place you normally don't see on a school tour, so I wanted to show it to you before the more traditional parts, which have got one heck of an upgrade over the past few years, as Old Parliament House has now become the Museum of Democracy, and our mate Sam is going to show us around.
And welcome to our House of Representatives chamber.
So Prime Ministers, Menzies, Hawke, last one in here.
The trajectory of the country was forged in this room, and that's something that shouldn't be forgotten as you enter this space. You know, the laws that we live by today came from right in here.
As a politics nerd, my spidey senses are going,
Ben Chifley, one of our most famous prime ministers in the post-war era, he was concerned that the media wasn't giving the Parliament a fair shake. So in 1946, you'll see at the back of the chamber, we've got the ABC broadcasting booth, which was installed.
Wow.
And the intention behind the ABC broadcasting booth was that you would then have some entity within this Parliament which could actually record word for word what was being said and transmit it to the people in real time.
Now, Sam, I haven't seen this office chair at Officeworks. A one of one.
This was quite literally sent over to Australia almost like what you get from IKEA in a flat pack. It is a replica of the Speaker's chair in the House of Commons in Great Britain, and it really exemplifies the ties that we have to Great Britain. The Prime Minister's office is one of the newer rooms inside of this building. It serviced the last 3 Prime Ministers who worked here, Gough Whitlam, Malcolm Fraser and Bob Hawke. It's got all of the important objects as Prime Minister that you need, a cigar box, an ashtray and a telephone, which would have been able to dial any member of the administration. We have here the word-for-word retelling of everything that took place inside of our Senate chamber for the years that this building was in operation, including our Senate estimates as well, between 1927 and 88, all recorded in these books here.
How long did it take to get the smoke smell out of this building? Because from 1927...
I can imagine a very, very long time.
These were originally white walls. Have a look at this. Our very own copy of the Crown Jewels.
This is St Edward's crown, the coronation crown, which is placed on the monarch's head during their coronation. The reason we have these crown jewels displayed here in this room is because in this space here, as part of the President of the Senate suite, the Queen would have stayed when she came to open up the Parliament in the Senate chamber.
So actual royalty, this room?
This room. We would have gotten ready for going into the Senate chamber.
You just dropped an information bomb on my head that I did not know, which was that this building was never meant to still be standing.
Yes, exactly right. This building, when it was officially opened in 1927, the architect had a very strict budget of £200,000 or around $23 million. And so when this building was designed, given that budget constraint, it was always supposed to be temporary. And so this was a glorified demountable, I'd like to say.
I don't remember my school demountables being this good. Thank you very much, Sam, for that beautiful tour inside, but of course, the history-making moment, the one that we are 50 years celebrating in just a few days' time, this exact spot, these stairs.
Looking out onto a crowd of thousands of people massing here at the front of Parliament House, the moment that the Whitlam government was dismissed from power, the 11th of November 1975.
Well, may we say, God save the Queen. Because nothing will save the Governor-General.
But it's also a reminder, and in all the seriousness of the next few weeks as we remember it, that even when this titanic moment of Australian political history was taking place, someone was taking the piss.
Oh, look, it's a bit too serious for that.
It certainly is. Oh, no, I quite agree. It certainly is. It's extremely serious.
I do just love that this very significant moment has taken the piss in it. Keep your applause going from my mate Chris Ullman as well, of course, part of the family here at Sky News. Lovely to see you, sir. Now, you've got a documentary coming up about that very day. Looking forward to it, but I want to talk about Canberra first, right? You're a bloke who's worked here, lived here. How have you seen it change over the years, or is it just more buildings around the same amount of roundabouts?
Yeah, you could say that. Well, look, the first time we came here was in 1964. My dad was in the army. We moved every 2 years. So 64 to 66 we were here. Last time it snowed in Canberra in 1966, I remember it. I was there, we made a snowman. Then the city finished at O'Connor. Now, people who don't know Canberra would know Belconnen was really just being built at that stage. The lake had only just gone up. So the city's changed remarkably in that time. And look, there are a lot of faults with Canberra, but what I always say to people is without Canberra, there would be no Australia. We will not federate unless there is a choice between Sydney and Melbourne. They could not decide. They settled on the fact that they'd have to have a different city. and that is this one. So if you love your nation, then this is part of the nation. This is the heart of the nation where our democracy beats. Whether you like the government or dislike the government, 100%. This is where it all happens.
So again, for me as a sort of, I agree completely.
Yeah.
Is that,
and by the way, you send them all here. They don't live here. They come from your electorates.
That's true.
And we only have a few of them.
That's a good point. But also, like I remember as a super nerd, right? When I was in year 5 and had the chance to come and do the excursion like everyone else, I was the type of super nerd who was very aware of where the flag should be and what means this and why this embassy, that. And what I love about going back into that building this weekend is, again, those reminders about the cathedrals of democracy that are here, that, yes, often we're blown away by the personalities or we get too fired up about the issues. But the idea that in the precinct you can look one way and that's the War Memorial and then that's the High Court and that's the art precincts, there's a very definite sense of the importance of those institutions, not just a collection of them being in the place that we've decided to be the capital.
Yeah, all of the elements of our democracy come here. The judicial system, the parliamentary system, and of course our government system. Old Parliament House is a great monument in this city. But again, I remember it was boarded up for years. Like we are pretty bad sometimes at preserving our history. It's great that the Museum of Australian Democracy is there and that we do have school kids going through there and that they're learning about how their system of government works. And when you add it all up, and again, we have our arguments about who we would rather be in government, and they get quite passionate. But one of the things I'll say about that Whittam dismissal, I was a 15-year-old schoolboy. We'd come back to Canberra in 1971. This would be Dad's last posting. I remember the day that happened. The school cleared out, showing my journalistic impulse. I thought, where will I go? I didn't think, I'm in Canberra, I'll go to Parliament House. And I went home, watched it on television.
Well, it was better on TV.
But I was certain there would be violence. But in the great tradition of Australian democracy, there was no violence. Bob Hawke had a big hand in the fact that there was no violence. He told people to be calm. He did not want a national strike. And the fact that we have a constitutional crisis where a Prime Minister is dismissed and our greatest satirist is standing on the steps with him on that day. Only in Australia does a constitutional crisis come with a punchline.
Yeah, 100%. Well said, well said, well said. I mean, also about the building, right? And obviously I'll pivot to the doco. But what I love about the building, I think it's really important, and I was thinking about this a lot this weekend, is that because our modern history is a couple of hundred years, we don't spend a lot of time talking about the importance of the buildings. We talk about what's happened in them. As opposed to when you go to some wonderful church on the other side of the world, you don't talk about what happened in it. You talk about the building, right? I love that in Old Parliament House there is wood from every state. I love that because there wasn't a significant timber industry from South Australia. The granite is from South Australia. That building in particular, and yes, there's another story about what's up, is about that concept of being one.
And you know, Paul, it's small and it's intimate and it says something about a way that Australia was then. I had the privilege once of sitting next to Dame Paddy Menzies at a dinner and I said, I have to ask you this question because Menzies and Chifley were really very good friends. I said, I got told this story years ago about the fact that the Prime Minister's phone number, so on the desk of the Prime Minister, his direct line was 1 digit different to the butchers at Manuka. and on occasions, women would ring up, Chifley would answer and say, this is Mrs. Smith, I want 6 sausages, 2 chops, and apparently Chifley would write it down and then ring the butcher.
And then ring the butcher! Wow! That's awesome.
Now, she said, it still sounds too good to be true.
I don't care. It's a great story.
Dame Paddy Menzies told me that was true.
That is a great story. Now, and so when you have the effort, have all of the resources and your free hand to tell the story of the dismissal of Gough Whitlam, about everything that leads up to it, from Joe changing the parliamentary affiliations of people that end up into the Senate, to the who said what, did what, all the rest of it. Give you the chance to report on daily events, but now to be able to sit back and look at something as complicated as this through the lens of time. What's that experience like for you?
It's great. And look, the other thing too is Sky is doing this because Sky is serious about politics too. And we're not taking a political side in this documentary. We are telling what is absolutely a cracking yarn in Australian politics. In 1972, it was time, but it was only just time. Whitlam doesn't win by that many. And he inherits an old Senate. And then, in fact, the Premier of New South Wales and the Premier of Queensland changed the affiliation of people in that Senate. There is an election again in 1974. Whitlam wins by even fewer numbers. And Snedden gets rolled and Fraser comes in. It's the clash. It is a very Australian story, the clash of 3 extraordinary personalities, 2 giant men, Fraser and Whitlam, physically giant men, rhetorically giant men. And then there's, of course, Sir John Kerr. And when Whitlam appointed Kerr, he didn't realise that he had the one person in the country who was an absolute expert on the constitutional dismissal of, well, in this case, a Premier. He had studied what had happened to the Premier in New South Wales, Jack Lang, who got dismissed. And so he knew that stuff inside out, and he always thought he might need to use those powers. So that's in the back of his mind from the time that Whitlam appoints him as Governor-General. So it is a great story. And of course, Whitlam brings an enormous amount on himself. Like, you know, they were hopeless on the economy. They were racked by different sets of scandals. Like the Attorney-General raided ASIO. Try and get your head around that.
Crazy.
So that's a great yarn too. And then we have this Pakistani loan stealer, Khemlani, trying to raise $4 billion worth of money to buy back the Australian resources industry. Like, you couldn't make this stuff up.
It's crazy. It's a great documentary, obviously up very soon here. On the 11th exactly, or are we moving
on the 11th,
in a couple of days? Okay. Now, you'll be able to see it with Chris. Inside, this is a conversation with an old member of the Sky family, but a radio journalist at the time, Lee Hatcher, about the experience of being there. This is part of what you'll see in the documentary.
He burst through the door and said, excuse the language, "Shit, Goff sacked." And we took off down to King's Hall, where people would usually saunter and calmly kind of whisper the latest political gossip. On this day, people were shouting, people were running, and we got confirmation that it was right.
So what was it like when Goff came through those doors?
Oh, well, there were hundreds of people out here who'd spontaneously arrived from all around Canberra because they'd heard that this thing had happened. So I had to be there. So there were people all over the place here.
So vital that the people that were active participants, or obviously even the active participant observing through Lee. But good stuff to see. Anything else inside the doco that you want to hook us into?
No, mate, it's just a cracking yarn. It tells the story, which is unique in Australia's political history, of the dismissal of the Prime Minister by the Queen's representative in Australia. Palace had nothing to do with it. It was all down to the three players here.
Good stuff. You can see it on the 11th of November here on Sky News. And Chris, again, just to tell you about how lovely a bloke he is, as soon as he sits down, he says, "I feel bad that I've got my back to the audience." So see, he was thinking about you the whole time. Thank you, great man. Do appreciate that. Chris Hillman, you can see him, of course, with Peter again tomorrow here on Sky News. Quick break, back with more. This is Our Sound. Thanks to the good people of Harvey News. Thank you so much. Welcome to Belconnen here in Canberra. Hopefully everyone's having a nice old time. I do appreciate you being here. Now, of course, thanks to Harvey Norman, we're able to do this journey around the country. We'll be coming to Echuca in Victoria next month, but it does give us an opportunity to be able to be introduced to some pretty special people around the country. One will join me at the desk in a moment or two's time, and also some local heroes, very much worth celebrating. Well, we'll talk about them in a moment or two's time. But again, something that we should be very proud of in Australia is the success that happens on the international stage, particularly with things like the Olympics and the Paralympics. And part of the preparation is making sure that people don't just have the skills, but the confidence and at times the support to get to live their dream. This is part of those that are doing so ahead of the Winter Paralympics next year. We love our sport in Australia. It doesn't matter if it's in the pool or on the snow. We love it, and we especially love it when we are great at it. And get ready for another great moment in Australian sporting history at the 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Paralympic Games. They're just 5 months away in March next year in Italy, and Harvey Norman are beyond proud to continue championing the extraordinary achievements of Australian athletes alongside Paralympics Australia.
It's been a really good lead into the Games. Our team is growing, the program is growing. Winter sport is maybe not what everyone thinks of when they think of Australians, but it's great to see some really great talent coming through. We have the likes of Ben Tudhope, who's looking to go to his 4th Games now and got a bronze medal, down to potentially Liana, who will be 17, our youngest on the team, trying to make her first Games. We'll have all our athletes on TV, being able to watch and tune in live, which is amazing. The time zone is actually pretty good. Winter sport's an early event, so they do it early morning, which means it's likely prime time back here in Australia for athletes to tune in. And then the opportunity to support them through donations, through buying a virtual seat, helps us to create that environment to deliver what's needed to our athletes. But the priorities for us, we're the team behind the team. We really try and create an environment for our athletes to do their best, whatever that best may be, whether it's a medal performance, whether it's a top 10, or maybe it's just to compete at their first Paralympic Games.
I can't imagine what it would be like to train for the international stage like our winter para-athletes are doing right now. It sounds like hard work, but someone's got to do it, and these athletes are incredibly inspiring for me, but especially for our future generations.
I'm absolutely honoured to be selected to be the team captain for Milano Cortina. Got a great group of athletes, and I can't wait to lead them into the games. And team captain comes with a few responsibilities. I'll be fronting the team. There's some really high emotions and low emotions around Paralympic Games, so I'll be set with try and keep things on a level, and hopefully we can do well and do Australia proud.
I was drawn into parabiathlon because I'd never done it before, to be honest. I hadn't actually heard a lot or knew much about biathlon as a sport or cross-country skiing. So the uniqueness of the sport and the fact that we've actually not had any Australian athletes for 20 years is what really drew me in, and it keeps me motivated to bring the sport back to Australia. A typical training day for me would be getting up nice and early to get a half hour to an hour session in the morning. Then I head off to work, and I'll take half an hour out, say lunchtime, to do some stretching and a little bit of mobility, and then in the afternoon I do my heavier sessions and some intervals. And I'm very fortunate as a vision impaired athlete, I can actually train with my rifle in my hallway at home.
Paralympics Australia is super important, supporting us athletes as we set our ambitions and goals to go to the Games. Without them and all the work that goes on behind the scenes, events like this don't happen. So very grateful for all the support they've given us.
The physical and mental demands of competing at this level, look, I do a fair bit of meditation, I have great support around me at home and at my full-time job, so I'm very lucky in that I get a lot of time to do what I need to do to be the good athlete that I am.
It's so important to me that Australian children of all ability have the opportunity to participate in sports and the resources to grow into elite athletes. And to know that that's happening in our nation makes me so proud.
The support from Paralympics Australia has meant a lot. As a winter athlete, the financial burden of so much travel every year for us has been difficult, and the exposure and the support from other athletes has been fantastic in the last couple of months, meeting everybody and getting our names out there, and exposure for the sport, with it being a sport that Australia hasn't had an athlete for 20 years.
Any young athletes out there want to join para sport, feel free to reach out to Paralympics Australia, and they'll set you on the pathway to achieving your goals.
Together, Harvey Norman and Paralympics Australia are fostering a culture of inclusivity in Australian sport, and I love it. So make sure you turn your tellies on, turn them up to 11 in March next year, and get behind our Aussie athletes. Go Australia!
Me and the whole team are leaving no stone unturned, and we're really going to be pushing to get some good results. I'm hoping to go out there and do my best, and I know the rest of the team is on the same track.
Yeah, good luck to all of them. Cannot wait to see what they have to do at the Paralympics next year. Now, whenever we get to roll into town, a great idea that Harvey Norman has come up with is that the locals of those areas go into their local Harvey Norman and nominate a community organisation doing something special, and the store puts up $2,000 vouchers. Now, I just want to give a massive shout out to Anthony and his team at the Belconnen store, because they were able to offer $2,000 vouchers to the Canberra Blind Society, the Belconnen Men's Shed, and the lovely blokes to meet with them too, and in the Australia-Bhutan Association in Canberra. Again, thank you to all of them, and give Anthony and Harvey Norman a round of applause for their help to those organisations that make Belconnen great. Now, I want to introduce you to a very special Australian. This is a retired Major, Dirk Norweer. No, I get it right before, right? There we go. Norweer. There we go. My apologies. He served 21 years in the Australian Aviation Corps. He flew in Afghanistan, Iraq and Timor-Leste, and he joins us now. Thank you. I apologise for the mispronunciation. Perfect before, you can confirm, right? I just buggered it up on the air. Not that it matters. All right, now let's get to this here. One of the helicopters that was very significant in your life now hangs at the Australian War Memorial. What's it like to have had service and to have service that future generations will be able to see through this piece of technology that's at the War Memorial?
Well, it's obviously very special, and it's not hanging because it's a pretty heavy aircraft. It's nearly 23 tonnes, so it's on the ground. But it's, as all the objects are in the War Memorial, it's telling a story about Australians serving their nation in various conflicts around the world. That particular aircraft is just telling one of those stories.
Yeah, I think we've actually got some of these pictures, hopefully, that we can see here, which is... talk us through what we can see here.
That's C Squadron 5th Aviation Regiment prior to deploying to Afghanistan. That's my family and me in the back of a Chinook that I flew in Afghanistan. That's our squadron in Afghanistan. There are my two boys in the Chinook during COVID, because Matt Anderson, the director of the War Memorial, being the lovely man that he is, my parents were elderly and I wanted them to hear the stories of what I did. The official history is still not released, so I asked Matt if he could help us out, and he gave us a personal tour of the annex of the War Memorial.
Wow.
Those pictures were of our family in the back of the Chinook that I flew in Afghanistan. And when we were driving home, my dad was saying to me, "Why is the director of the War Memorial giving us a tour? Surely he's too busy for something like that." I said, because I'm a veteran, Dad, that's why.
That's what we get. We get the good, the good treatment. It also all comes with painful memories. And tell me about your mate Mitch, who serves. Take it back.
Mitchell Judd was my godson and my best mates from the Army, his son. Mitch joined the Army in 2008 and left in 2018, so about 10 years service. He served with 5 RAR in Afghanistan, and he suffered a lot of hip pain and shoulder pain as a result of his military service, and he got himself onto painkillers, which led to an opiate habit, which led to eventually him dying in the States in January of 2023 of a fentanyl overdose. He left behind a 4-year-old daughter, and he left behind his sisters, some of whom are with us here.
Hello.
In the crowd.
And a shout out to his sister up the back as well. I'm sure you look presentable and wonderful on telly, but a shout out.
And of course his mum and dad. But it's, we don't think Mitch took his own life. We don't know that for a fact, but the suggestion is that he didn't. But it's not the point. The point is that he was on the drugs. He couldn't break that cycle despite the amount of efforts from his family, his friends, and in fact DVA, who were terrific. And it's just, I guess, an example of how young men and indeed young women who have served can go off the rails and how tough life can be when you get back.
Well, and also, we've spent a lot of time talking about the lead up to the Royal Commission itself and every little detail and chapter and verse about all of those recommendations, right? And the politicians, they turn around and say, oh, we'll read it, we'll do our best, and we haven't really heard much since. His story is one of those that is your post-service life, right? There's the physical issues, there's the way you deal with those physical issues, and then all of the complications that are there. How do we learn from what happened to Mitch about how better to take care of people like Mitch?
Well, I guess you've got to talk about it. You've got to tell the story. We obviously remember him at Anzac Day for a kick-off. I don't know whether you've got the images there, but we've got... when Mitch's funeral was on here locally, I may have been a little bit inebriated, and I text Matt Anderson when we were at the pub late at the night of his wake and said, "Mate, a bunch of Mitch's mates from 5 RAR coming in the memorial, can you come and say good day to them?" And Matt actually came and met those veterans and gave them a personal tour of the Afghanistan display, because they were Afghanistan veterans. And before we went, he said, "Have you seen the T-wall?" And we all went, "What's the T-wall?" Well, it's representative of the concrete T-walls from Afghanistan. And someone had come up with the idea of anyone who'd served in the Middle East area of operations, oh yes, there's Neil, to write their name on their T-wall. And Neil, my friend Neil, Mitchell's dad, said to Matt, would it be okay if I put Mitch's name on the wall? And Matt said, of course. So that's a picture of Neil putting Mitch's name on the T-wall. And the thing that's quite remarkable about that is that there are tens of thousands of names on those walls, and they go for metres and metres and metres. Neil was trying to find somewhere to write Mitch's name, and he looked down and he saw RIP Big Oz. I don't know if you've got that close up, but RIP Big Oz. Now, Big Oz was Private Sam Osborne, who was Mitch's best mate in 5RAR. And Sam was killed in a single vehicle accident about 12 months after he got back from Afghanistan. And Neil saw RIP Big Oz and went, that's the spot Mitch has got to go, right next to him.
Very well said. Well done. Thank you for being a good mate. I know how important it is to remember your mates. Thank you for the service to your country, the ability for people to know that when they see that wall, the emotion that sits behind it. Thank you for everything you've done.
No worries, Paul.
Thank you, dude.
Cheers.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. Now, I also want to make it really clear that there is ongoing support for as many people as possible who need it. Open Arms, a free counselling and treatment program and suicide prevention training. That is 1800 011 046 for defence personnel and their families to have access to mental health services. This information all coming from the Department of Defence. 1800 628 036, and of course, as always, our mates at Lifeline. 24/7, they are there, 13, 11, 14, the crisis support and suicide prevention help. Thank you, mate, I do appreciate it. All right, strength and love, and thanks to everyone who served our country. We very much mean it. More in a moment here as we start to turn our attention to the sport of Belconnen. One second. Welcome back here to Canberra. We're having a lovely time. Now, Stuart, correct?
Yes.
All right, hello. Now, we want to talk Canberra Raiders because we're not talking about the end of this season, although they had every right to go all the way through to the GF. Who thinks the Raiders are going to win the comp next year, though? You all right? Good. Just double checking. Right? Thought that might be the case. Now, of course, what is GIO Stadium now is formerly Bruce Stadium, been around for a while. But before that, Seaford Oval. That is the official first home ground, the super old school home ground of the Raiders. What was that like?
It was a very small ground, but it was a very good ground. It had a nice grass area over across from the stand, and you got a nice crowd in there at times. And when it filled out, you got a really good cheer going around. When it went out to Bruce, we sort of lost the cheer because it was too big and not enough people.
Yeah, but then the cheers come back, Viking claps and all. But would you be somebody who would want a new stadium for the Raiders, or are you happy with what we got?
Bruce looks to be a reasonable stadium. There's several good ovals we've got in Canberra, but Bruce, there's nothing wrong with Bruce.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Well, who wants a new stadium for the Raiders? Anyone? Who says move on to other issues, Paul? Fine, fair enough. Thank you. I do appreciate it. This is our look at Bruce Stadium, which has much of a history, not just of rugby league, rugby union, and even big-time music too.
Lee Simpson finds the gap. Simpson's got it. Saved by Micah.
What do the Raiders, the Brumbies, the Wallabies, the Matildas and Johnny Cash have in common? They've all called this place home. What used to be Bruce Stadium is now GIO Stadium, and it has played host to some of Canberra's biggest and greatest sporting achievements. Ones that matter for club and some, as I say, that matter for country. This is a truly special place that's been around since the 1980s. Every chair can tell a story, every point of view here, a very cool memory. Let's have a look at a sporting institution, GIO Stadium.
Welcome to the home of the Canberra Raiders, the home dressing sheds of our NRL team.
This is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's an awesome place, got plenty of great memories and moments and great players that have been in this dressing shed.
This is it, as you say. I mean, everyone from the legends of the 80s, the 90s through to today. And what I love about the way that you've put the dressing room together is that those great players of the past, including yourself, great leaders here, are absolutely front in mind of the current generation, who are very good. They are very good.
Yeah, it's something that we really pride our club on, is understanding who's worn the jersey before you. And you can see that in each one of the lockers here, not only is it the current player, but it's a player that they look.
Who's this? Who's this?
Yeah.
Who's here to look at this? When you look at yourself, when you first walked into this joint, did you ever think that you would have left a legacy that would have resulted in captaincy or achievement, and then that a future player would go, I want to be like him?
Yeah, it's a dream come true to be able to, to play in the NRL and to play at the Canberra Raiders.
As a fan, we think of these rooms as sacred spaces. As a player, are they?
We certainly try and make that. It's one little space. I mean, there is still cameras everywhere that we have in the modern game, but it is a chance for them just to be by themselves before they go out on the field for their moments. It's quite interesting when you watch players in those moments just before. Everybody's got their own little routine rituals that they do. Some have got the music blaring, some are, that quiet moment there. Some are in the corner having a silent moment of prayer, whatever that might be.
For everyone at home, what's this moment like when you're on your way out, you're pumping yourself up? What's this like?
Yeah, that's right. Well, when you hear the 2-minute bell, the warning there, you know it's getting close. But, coming out, it's a pretty crazy moment. Crowds cheering, getting ready for the Viking clap, which is really, really important to us. But yeah, it's a really special moment. And for these guys, all the preparation and everything that they do, this is their showtime. This is when they go and do their business.
This also would be the moment where a winter sport played in Canberra, you're starting to actually notice that it is quite wintry, and you have played here in the snow, you personally.
Yeah, that's right, 2000, up against the West Tigers. It was a pretty crazy moment, and actually before us, the reserve grade game, the conditions were even worse. I thought they were going to call it off for sure. I remember guys were looking around and saying, surely we can't go and play in that. And anyway, then it all happened. We went out there and played. I remember my first touch in that game, actually dropped the ball, but we had the garbage bin.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
It's snowing.
We had the garbage bins with warm water on the sidelines because it was unlimited interchange back then. Warm the hands up and go back out, and so you could feel in your fingertips again.
But now it's ice baths.
Yeah,
but
that's
back
right.
then it was just a warm bin.
Yeah, that's right.
That's cool. Unbelievable. Rugby league famous, world famous, this beautiful horn. Now, Alan, you're actually the first bloke to ever breathe life into this clarion call of sport.
Yeah, I was. I was fortunate enough to be able to do that in 2016 up against the Sharks.
All right, well, let's give it a go. It's almost like I actually made that sound. Thank you very much to Alan and to the club. A wonderful time, a wonderful part of Australia's sporting past, but obviously into its future as well. All right, quick break. Back with more. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to the good people of Harvey Norman. It's our town on the road, showing you the best country in the world. Out. Welcome back here to the Canberra Southern Cross Club in Jamison, not too far from Belconnen, which of course is in Canberra, in the ACT. Had a good night tonight? Everyone joining us? Lovely to see you. All right. Your chance to wave to be on TV right now, by the way. Thank you very much for coming out. Thank you very much for supporting us, supporting what we do, and obviously celebrating your magnificent part of Australia. As I said, we're off to Echuca in Victoria, which we're very much looking forward to being at. Now, most importantly, you know this because you live it each and every day. The reality is that regardless of whether we are on the coast of Western Australia, the very bottom of Tasmania, the tippy top in Darwin or anywhere else in between, the story is the same of its people. normal people who want normal families, who want normal safety, but also all who know that we are in the greatest country in the world. These shows are an opportunity for us to celebrate it. Thank you. For us to celebrate it and to remind you that the best place to go on holidays is in Australia. And again, if you have come to Canberra way far back in the school excursion days, bugger that, come back and enjoy what is a beautiful, first-rate 21st century experience at everything from food to accommodation. You can do everything from, five-star luxury to caravan parks, all in between, right? Also, all of the incredible things to do as a family as well. And I mentioned it before, but there are so many little museums people would forget about. Make sure you come here, spend a whole week, but more importantly, just meet the people. They're always awesome. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for watching us at home. We'll see you tomorrow for more Paul Murray Live. Newsletters next. Good on you guys. Thanks.